So since I haven't been out to the shop in the last about week and a half, I figured I would just go over, make a quick video of some of the sales stuff and information related to the 455 since I'm working on that project currently. All the videos that you've seen recently were filmed over 2 weeks ago and edited over 2 weeks ago. That tells you how the idea of how busy I've been. But I figured I'd go through the sales information. So we got the 425, the 445, and then the 455 right here. This is a 98, or these pages right here are from 98. Most of this manual right here is from 96, so it's a little bit different. If you have other ones, there might be some different information in there. All of this information here is basically just everything that came with the machine, just kind of some of the selling points. You can easily find those online. But I figured I would get into some of the nitty-gritty detail, and basically, most of these sales binders like this, they're going to have, you know, the market. So the 400 series are heavy-duty lawn and garden tractors designed to and built to meet the needs of both homeowner and commercial users, and it basically appeal to those who have desires for a more versatile and heavy-duty tractor. It just goes through everything, and then here are all the kind of the beginning specs of the machine. I do like the fact that here at the bottom it says professional seat and suspension on the 425 is field installed for attachments only, or attachment only, and that's the difference in the seats that you saw in the first couple pages. So all of those, and we'll get into some of the specs here in just a second. So in this one right here we have the engine. So we have the K-Series Kawasaki, but obviously the 425 is the carbureted engine, and the 445 is the fuel injected. And so it goes through all the features and whatnot. Interestingly enough, you got 32.9 foot-pounds of torque coming out of the 425 engine, 34.7 foot-pounds coming out of the 445 engine. Basically all of this is all the information for the K-Series, and then you get the diesel. So the Yanmar, this is a 3 TNA 72UJ engine, 22 horsepower, 36.8 foot-pounds of torque, and it lists all of this. Now what I find really interesting is up here at the very top it says 12% greater torque than the 425 and 27% greater fuel economy than the 445. And I'll go through some of those data here in just a minute. But yeah, just kind of walk through it. They talk about the air intake system, and I've already talked about that in the air filter video. So the screen side panel is a pre-cleaner designed to keep large debris out of the engine. So they talk about more of the stuff over here. So we've got the air filter for the 425, 445, and then the 455 air filter. And the restriction indicator. The restriction indicator was only available on the 455. Electronic fuel injection on the 445 engine. Immediate starting after hot or cold or ambient temperature. No choke linkage for customer to operate. No engine warm-up required, so implements can be engaged immediately after engine starts. Precise fuel delivery, 15% fuel savings versus similar horsepower overhead valve engines, and 26% less emissions, and eliminates plug fouling. And then they talk about hydrostatic drivetrain, so they show the two-wheel steer model, and they also show the all-wheel steer model, and give you the speed and whatnot. And then you can look through the specs there. I don't know if you'll be able to read it as I pan down through them. But we all know that the K91 transaxle is a pretty beefy unit. Then we talked about the coolers, 2-pedal foot control with cruise, etc., etc. Batteries, ignition circuits. Then we talk about power steering right here, hydrostatic power steering, front axle wheels, spindles, 1-inch spindles, etc. And then we talk about the frame. 4.6 millimeter thick frame, and the, quick catch weights bracket, whatnot. And what's really interesting is the fact that Deere will list the patents that are covered under these machines. They'll list all the patent numbers, which is kind of interesting. So comfortable operator seat, this is where you get into the difference between the 425 and the 445 and 455. So the deluxe high back vinyl seat is on the 425, and then you get into the suspension seat on the 445 and 455, and you see the difference between the two. And if you look at the seat I just bought for the 455, looks the same as that. Tilt steering, which is also a patent that Deere has held. I think tilt steering, I'll come up with it here in just a minute, but tilt steering's been around since like the 80s for Deere. That's when they patented it. Parking brake, motor deck height, differential lock, headlights, etc. And then all of this other stuff that most everybody knows: hydrostatic system or hydraulic system, whatnot, outlets. I think it's important to point out that the 425, the coupler kit, can be ordered. So the 425 actually came with the couplers blocked off. I never have understood that, why they would do that. And then they talk about the ease of serviceability, so all those plastic panels that break and that are outrageously expensive. And then the air filter, whatnot. And here are the decks, and we'll get into some of the attachments here later in this video. But it shows the 48, the 54, and I believe the 60 is on the next page. So there's the 60. Obviously 98, they still had the steel covers and they hadn't gone to the plastic covers. So here's all the specs, equipment, and so these are all the equipment and whatnot. And then, sorry, I'm a couple pages off from the specs. And then attachments for field conversion. So this would be all the deck stuff, all of the attachments that you can get. So if you want the power flows, the bagger attachments, the weights, obviously, and then down here you've got like the starter weights and the plastic shell weights, suitcase weights, front wheel weights, front weight bracket. Interestingly enough, Deere actually still uses this picture when they sell their front weight bracket. Rear weight bracket, 3-point hitch, so on and so forth. All of these things, front PTO, stub shaft 540 PTO, rear 540 PTO, and all the different tire options. And then you have more tire options, wheel spacers for the all-wheel steer, hubcaps, hydraulic cylinders for the quick hitch, plugs, diverter valves. On this page you have rear hydraulic outlets, spark arrestor for the muffler, drawbars, battery chargers, then you have the coolant heater, protective cover, which if you look really close, let me see if it'll focus, you can actually see that as it appears to be a four-legged Deere on there. That's pictures from the 60s. And then you've got electrical, so this is if you wanted to switch or something like that, you can put it in there. And then the halogen headlight kit that you can get with the 445, 455, etc. Cruise control, I guess, was a kit. I did not know that. But it says dealer installed allows equipping some pre-1994 425s with cruise control. It became standard equipment in 1994. Work light. So this is actually the picture on a 300 series, an older 300 series, like a 318 with the work light. You can tell by the rear lights right there. And then you have the professional seat expansion, etc. High altitude jet for the carburetor, which is kind of cool. And then the mulcher kit, so on and so forth. So here's all the patents up here. All-wheel steer design was patented in 92. Twin pedal foot control was 1991. Tilt steering was 1990. Integral weight bracket was 1990. And then the mower height control was 1987. So if you look down here, here's the engine models, the FD620D and then the 3 TNA 72UJ. Lists the horsepower. Interestingly enough, the PTO horsepower is listed here, which is estimated at 16, 18, and 18 horsepower. Gives the peak torque, which we've already covered. However, this is in Newton meters, and then the engine speed, so on and so forth. Basically, just kind of continues to cover here everything that we need. I think it's very interesting. 425 at full load will consume 1.57 gallons per hour. A 445 will consume 1.64 gallons per hour, and a 455 will consume 1.32 gallons per hour. At half load, it's a little bit less, obviously, at 0.94, 0.98, and 0.79 gallons per hour. So it shows you the diesel. I mean, it has more torque. It saves quite a bit of fuel. And if you're a high hour, if you put a lot of hours on a mower every year, diesel probably would be a good option for you. And just to kind of continue, this is all the stats. Talks about fuel capacity, whatnot, speeds, all of the different capacities that you would need. Hydraulic system, relief valves, whatnot. So hopefully you found this video informative with some of the specs that are on the 425, 445, and 455. And if you got questions, leave them in the comments below. I will attempt to get to them in a reasonable time frame. So thanks for watching.